Hey folks. The Nintendo Switch 2 hype is well and truly underway after the recent Direct presentation and Treehouse events. My channel is focused on The Legend of Zelda, if you couldn't already tell, so naturally, my interest is focused on that series. I'm incredibly excited for the console and its new games in general, but what I'm still eagerly awaiting is the announcement of the next big mainline Zelda game. A sure inevitability that we'll just have to wait on. We know that there is a fair bit of Zelda content on the way already, with the Wilds era games getting enhanced versions. There's a new Zelda Notes feature coming, containing a ton of new information to the Wilds era games. The Wind Waker is coming for the new Switch Online GameCube, and on top of that, there's a brand new Hyrule Warriors game coming later this year. Shameless plug incoming. If you want to hear more about my thoughts on the Direct in general, be sure to check out the Cave Boys channel, which I am 1/3 of, alongside other Zelda fans Triforce Trends and Zinc. We make very topical videos around Zelda and Nintendo pretty much weekly, so if you haven't already, be sure to check out our videos after this one. This new, significantly more powerful console holds a ton of potential for the next mainline Zelda game, and in today's video I want to talk about the overall future for the Zelda series on the Nintendo Switch 2. Be sure to go and grab yourself a delicious snack and drink, folks. Subscribe if you aren't already for lots more fabulous Zelda content from myself. And let's get into this. The Legend of Zelda is Nintendo's biggest name on their home consoles in terms of sales. Breath of the Wild has sold an incredible 34 million copies as of December 2024. For context, the face of Nintendo, Mario, and his big 3D game on the Switch, Mario Odyssey, sold 29 million copies as of December 2024. Zelda is a good 5 million clear. Zelda is the big hitter, and the development team will be absolutely cooking the next big project that will release on the Switch 2. Without getting too carried away, let's talk about some of my hopes and expectations for the next mainline Zelda game. Whilst I don't like having actual expectations or demands for a game, there are some things we can expect with whatever this next mainline Zelda game is. Firstly, the graphics. I'll say this now. I am absolutely not a graphical snob. I don't really care if a game can run 4K however many FPS, though admittedly it is really awesome if it can. And after seeing the enhanced version of Tears of the Kingdom, I am very excited to see a brand new installment on this console. I don't think it will be quite as graphically intense as some of the fan projects we see on YouTube, but I can see it being realistically somewhat close. I imagine we'll be noticing a lot of cool particle effects, improved lighting, and a much sharper image both at close range for small details, but also long range for landscapes and distant points. Supported games will be able to run at 120 frames per second on the Switch 2, so it's pretty likely that the next mainline Zelda will be running at this as well. Another expectation of mine is actually not really a positive one, but it is something I am expecting to happen. The price. This has been one of the most hot topics about Switch 2 games. The prices are significantly higher than Switch 1 games, and with Zelda being such a big series, it's quite likely that the next game will be a little more costly. It has come out that Nintendo will be setting prices based on how much went into each game's development, and how much that game offers, rather than them all being set at the same price. Zelda games are pretty big now, so I am anticipating a beefy price tag alongside it. Those are my two main expectations for the game. What about the hopes I have? The first and probably most important to me is a return to more classic Zelda music. The Wilds era games took a much more atmospheric approach, and it worked for those games. The soft, broken tones mixed in with the sounds of the world really fit the setting, especially in Breath of the Wild as we're exploring a very much still post-apocalyptic world. However, I think it's time we see the return of more bombastic Zelda tracks. A glorious Hyrule field theme that injects the feeling of adventure into us. dungeon themes that absorb the setting into the music, quirky music for mini-games and certain characters, an upbeat tune for the heart of the kingdom. The music is something that I connect to emotionally in Zelda games. It's quite a big part of my enjoyment when playing these games. I probably couldn't play them without any sound or music, as that's a really big part of what makes the gameplay for me. I need those atmospheric tracks when they fit, the dungeon themes to make me feel like I'm truly exploring that ancient temple deep within the woods or far out into the desert. I need to hear that there's a sense of adventure to be had. That is one of, if not my biggest hopes for the next game. More classic Zelda music making a return. Another big hope of mine is that the story is a lot more present. What I mean by this is less memories showing us an entire story in a different time frame, and more of the story taking place actively in the time frame we play. Fair enough, it was cool in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but it felt a little heavy at times with just how much story happened in a time that we don't actually play out ourselves. Especially when Tears of the Kingdom essentially copied that format one for one from Breath of the Wild. This is also something that helps me personally, emotionally become invested in the game. I like to feel what I imagine the characters are feeling in the moment, not events that happened long ago. I'm not saying don't have flashbacks or the odd memory looking back, but I'd hope it isn't such a focus next time around. The tone of a Zelda game is also important. Something I'd like to see in the next one is a more darker or gritty tone. This is absolutely the Twilight Princess fan in me speaking. I have no problem admitting that. But after 3 brand new games, all in the more bright and approachable tone, I'd like to see something with a little more grit to it. Something with a little edge to it. Something that sets it apart from the past few games visually. The only issue is, the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom style is almost perfect. It's hard to change this when it works so well. Typically, the Zelda team are really good at changing things though, and love to change up the art style and tone of games. I honestly don't think the art style itself needs to change much. Perhaps just minor changes and a different tone on top of it would do the job. A blend of Breath of the Wild and Twilight Princess is what I'm imagining. Though I have to admit, a full-on dark art style and tone switch-up would be incredibly cool as well. Or perhaps something unexpected. One more rather big thing I'd like to see is an alternative world. The likes of your Twilight Realms, the Dark World, and the Still World. I really like when this is a part of a Zelda game, and with how much potential this console has for Zelda, I could see an alternative world being so much more than the examples I just mentioned. A new alternative world to go alongside Hyrule could be massive. However, I don't want it massive in size if there's not contents to fill it. What I don't want is an entirely new map with basically nothing in it compared to its size. The depths. I felt that was an issue with the depths in Tears of the Kingdom. Whilst not an alternative world, it was a whole new map, the same size as the kingdom on the surface level. However, the depths weren't nearly filled as much as the surface in terms of content. Sure, it had some cool areas and lore, but it just didn't feel full enough of actually worthwhile things to check out. I'd rather a smaller alternative world like the Palace of Twilight and Twilight Princess if it means being properly filled with content. I'm not really sure what sort of world I'd like to see, maybe something out of pocket like outer space and into different galaxies. Or perhaps something more tied to the lore, such as the Sacred Realm. I think that could be really interesting if they fleshed that out in a similar way to how it was described in A Link to the Past. A golden land. A whole other world. Perhaps someone could breach it, and Link must go and explore the Sacred Realm under the corruption of whatever evil is plaguing the kingdom this time around. And one final thing I'd really like to see is fishing. If you didn't already know, I am a huge nerd for fishing within video games, specifically within Zelda games. I must have spent an equal amount of time at the fishing hole in Twilight Princess as I did playing through the main story. I hope to see a proper rod and reel return with some decent depth to the fishing mechanics. Those are my expectations and hopes for the next mainline entry to the Zelda series. Something else that I see happening during the lifetime of this console is the release of more non-mainline entries. A spin-off, like we've seen before with the likes of Link's Crossbow Training, Cadence of Hyrule, or the Cursed Tingle games. Nintendo loves doing random and quirky things in the form of spin-offs for their games. It's been a while since we've seen something like this happen for Zelda, and it could be a real possibility on the Switch too at some point down the line. Maybe we'll get a Zelda Dungeon Maker similar to Mario Maker. Perhaps something random like a Zelda farming sim. Who knows? It could be anything really. The lifetime of the Switch 1 will soon end, being 8 years long. If the Switch 2 is around just as long, even just close to as long, I think we'll be seeing another Zelda spin-off down the line, beyond the already announced Age of Imprisonment game. There is also a high chance that we get more remakes and or remasters during the lifetime of the Switch 2. It's impossible to say what we could see for sure, but it's bound to happen at some point. Maybe the Oracle games will receive full remakes, perhaps the Minish Cap or Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. Anything is possible, and knowing how adored the Zelda series is, the likelihood of this happening is pretty high. That's the main stuff I see for Zelda's future on the Nintendo Switch 2. I'd also anticipate more features on the Nintendo app, much like the new Zelda Notes app. I could see them doing more things like this down the line, as it appears they'll be taking more of a focus on that, developing a much more immersive experience for us overall. In conclusion, I believe that the future of the Zelda series on this upcoming console is very bright. The Legend of Zelda is Nintendo's best seller now. The Switch 2 looks like a beast of a console, all things considered, and we've already got off to a decent start in terms of Zelda content for it, and the console isn't even out yet. Time will tell, of course, but I personally believe that we've got a lot in store for us in terms of Zelda on the Nintendo Switch 2. I think there's going to be some pretty insane content on this console. Somewhere in that Nintendo HQ in Japan is the Zelda developers working on whatever the next big mainline game is. Each day that passes is one day closer to the inevitable announcement that will send the Zelda fandom into absolute chaos. Thank you very much for watching, folks. I really appreciate your time, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a cheeky wee like down below, and if you want to see more fabulous Zelda content from myself, then be sure to subscribe to the channel. A massive thank you must go to my amazing channel supporters across YouTube memberships and Patreon, with very special shoutouts to new members: Jemai Tattoos, Merci, Dallin, Silver Young, Gabby, Growing Gamer, Hyrule Warriors, Megan Gregory, Triforce Trends, Anya Shepherd, Vicarious, K Bacon, Victor Salcedo, Sir Ember, Eppo Chilips Mew, Midnight to 12, Tristan YouTube Art, Shure81, Zanzaroon, Dana, Ithia, Silly Cat YT, Lex, Quackeye, Aya Sensei, Yukan, Slice94, Zubulon Felin, Pixie Lily, Robert Hamill, and Preenut Butter. I'm very sorry if I butchered anyone's names. Thank you all very much for joining. I did my first live stream in a little while a week ago, and all of you joined from that stream, so thank you again so much. If you're interested in joining them and getting your name at the end of my videos, a shout out when you join, and access to my exclusive Inside Scoop vlogs, then check out the supporting links down in the description. Also down there are my socials where you can keep up to date with me if you'd like to, and also join the Discord server. Thanks again for watching, folks. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and until the next time, I've been Hyrule Gamer.